Welcome back. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to Retail Horror Stories. Hit the like button and drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is for you. That way, YouTube knows to keep showing you more stories like this. Now, let's begin. I was keyholder for our strip mall GameStop, running a midnight launch. Stanchions, wristbands. By 10, the lot was caffeine and damp hoodies. Damon worked the door. I checked pre-orders and kept the demo loop from freezing. Around 11, I noticed him. Gray hoodie, hands in pockets, standing just past the glow of the sign like he was listening through the glass. No wristband, no receipt. Eyes fixed on the standee of the new release. "You on the list?" I asked. He didn't look at me. "Unlocking levels," he said. "Gotta get past this one." Inside, the line flowed. Scanners chirped over the buzz of lights. At 12:23, we sold the last guaranteed pre-order and began the leftovers. Gray hoodie stepped up like he'd been there all along. "Pre-order receipt?" Damon asked. The man slid a slip across the counter. Our old logo. The date, June 11th, year blurred like wet ink. Associate line, my name. "I've only worked here 8 weeks, I said. He tapped the counter twice, gentle as a QuickTime prompt. "Something always goes wrong," he murmured. "But I'm learning." We refused him, sold the final copy, and gated the store at 1. The building exhaled. My handheld read, "On hand, 0." In the back room, the light hummed. On the bottom shelf sat a shrink-wrapped case I hadn't seen, plastic scoring a white groove in the cardboard. Inside, 1 copy, not a carton, just one. SKU matched. Serial matched our store. The handheld updated on its own. On hand, 1. Received, 0. "Did you stash that?" I asked. Damon shook his head. "We sold out on camera." We brought it to the counter. The POS hesitated, then floated a prompt. "Employee purchase?" The customer display flickered into a half face and back to blue. "I'll buy and return tomorrow," I said. I swiped my discount card. Before the stripe finished, the name Field auto-filled with my name and the date June 11th, the same blurred year as the receipt. The gate rattled. We'd locked it with the chain and padlock facing in. Outside, fog slid under the awning. On the other side of the grate, the gray hoodie stood where he'd been hours ago, head tilted like he was waiting for a cue. "We're closed," I said. "Come back tomorrow." He tapped the glass twice. No sound. The tapping came from behind me. The demo loop stuttered, blacked out, then returned as a text screen I'd never seen. "Unlock level Y/N." The cursor blinked over Y. The register chimed the same 2 notes. The backroom light strobed and steadied. Damon lifted the phone. The dial tone arrived and cut off. His cell had no bars, no clock, no battery icon. "We should go," he said. The register completed the sale without a tender. The drawer popped. A receipt printed, my name and employee discount applied. No total, no card. The copy on the counter was gone. Light plastic on tile led us to the back room. The door was open a hand's width. The case lay on the floor, empty. The demo headset hung from a hook, swaying, ear cups turned like a face. The disc hub was on the ground, snapped inward, as if pressed from inside. I lifted the headset. The cushions were damp with condensation. In my ear, our store, flattened and distant, gate rattling, my voice reading policies, a crash of stanchions, air swallowed at once. Then the voice I'd already heard. Something always goes wrong. Reset. Back room. The disc slid under the shelf by itself, carving a half moon in the dust. The monitor by the door spat a new line. New objective. Move stock. The pallet we'd broken down stood whole again, wrapped tight. On top sat a plain box with my name in the retired font. "Don't," Damon said from the doorway. The light seemed to hold him there. "We're not getting paid for side quests. Fix the small wrong, and the big wrongs might leave you alone. That's retail religion." I peeled back the plastic. Inside, one more copy. When my fingers touched it, every display TV lit with a scoreboard. Attempt 12. "Unlocking levels," the gray hoodie said, from the headset now, close as breath. "You never leave in time. Try a different choice." I put the case back. I didn't open it. I set the headset face down so the ear cups couldn't see. The hum dropped a note. We went to the gate. The padlock key turned. The chain slid. The fog pressed forward like a dog on a leash, then stopped at the threshold as if there were tape on the floor. "Different choice," I said. To the loop, to my neat numbers. "We don't play." The lights strobed. The registers piped a power loss tone and went quiet. From the back room came the click of a case closing. On the counter, the printer spat a receipt. No logo, no date. 2 words, level skipped. Outside, the night relaxed. Damon rubbed his eyes. "You gonna buy your copy tomorrow?" I thought about the old receipt with my name, about June 11th without a year, about attempt 12. I'll wait for a patch. We locked the gate and headed to our cars. When I started my engine, the radio flipped to a station I never set. The DJ said my name like he'd practiced it. "Thanks for playing," he said. "See you next level." Next day, a memo blamed brief receipt irregularities. Our on-hand was 0. Shrink, 0. We opened at 10. The first hour was ordinary. The bell jingled, and a customer walked in, alone, quiet, gray hoodie with the tag still on. He didn't look at me so much as threw me toward the back, hands in pockets, head tilted, waiting for a sound. "You on the list?" I heard myself ask. He tapped the counter twice without touching it. In the demo TV's reflection, a text menu blinked up. "Unlock level YN." "I already did this," he said, as a tutorial. A receipt I didn't print lay on the glass. June 11th, year, blurred. Associate, my name, tender, blank. Line item, 1 copy. I folded it and slid it into my pocket. I killed power to the demo TV. The menu lingered in the dark screen, then faded. "We're only doing pre-orders today," I said, even though we weren't. He stepped outside the glow of the sign and stood there, listening to nothing I could hear. In the back room, extras, shelf empty. Headset silent. On the floor, a curved smear ended at the baseboard, last night's half moon already dusty again. When I returned, the printer had fed a strip without a transaction. No logo, no date, just try again. "Different choice," I said, and tore it in half. The halves made no sound. Nothing reset. We rang up controllers like the world was normal. At closing, the drawer matched the report exactly. On hand, 0. Shrink, 0. In the dark, the customer display typed 2 words without a keyboard. "See you." I locked the door, counted to 2 out of habit, and didn't look back. I was on register 2 during a Tuesday, slow enough to hear the ceiling buzz. Dust filmed the used racks. Damon restocked controllers. A kid begged for Mario. Around 4, a man came in with a grocery bag held like a newborn and set it down carefully. The plastic was damp and sagging. The smell hit, rot under metal. "Trade in," he said. Inside was a fat model PlayStation 2, black gone gray, vents packed with dust. Tape crisscrossed the disc tray. On the tape, in ballpoint, "Do not open." Cords? Controller? I asked to have something to do. He shook his head. "It plays," he said, tapping the tape. "It doesn't like to stop." The bottom sticker had peeled, so I keyed the model manually and added inspection. Heavy odor. The trade-in drawer sticks unless you hip-check it. I did. Through the wood, I felt a faint vibration, like the console shivered. "Back room," Damon said, "not on the floor." Our test bench was a retired register with a scarred TV. I peeled the tape, rubbed off the gum, and pressed power. No red light. It jumped straight to green like a pause resumed. The tray slid out by itself, finishing a thought I hadn't given it. A disc lay inside with an off-white label and no art. Around the hub, a ring of tiny etched notches, 5 total. A title ghosted the label, letters worn to almost nonsense. I set the disc on a cloth. Without the switch flipped yet, the PS2 made a pressure sound you feel in your jaw. The vents breathed, pulling the stink in and pushing a colder version out. Damon leaned in the doorway. "We paying for that?" "Only if it boots," I said. I slid the disc in. The TV flashed gray, then the PS2 splash. The browser showed memory card and disc, the disc block pulsing. The bench under my hands pulsed with it. I raised the volume, no music, just a room tone, like a microphone pointed at a ceiling. The game skipped logos and dropped to play. Third person, a hallway under fluorescent buzz that matched ours. A vending machine glowed at the far end. No HUD, no start prompt. I found a chewed-up DualShock, plugged it in, and pressed X. The character stepped. The PS2 drew a breath in time with that step. When I let go, it exhaled. The exhale smelled like wet carpet. "Scripted demo?" I said. Damon didn't answer. I walked forward. The vending machine's glass reflected a smear that could have been a counter and ceiling grid. When I stopped under an on-screen light, the bench bulb dimmed to match and came back in sync. The controller tapped the rhythm into my palms. Start did nothing. Along the wall, a poster curled, revealing Cinder Block. It advertised a midnight launch for a title I'd never heard of. At the vending machine, I pressed X. A prompt appeared. Insert. The PS2's tray nudged the cabinet and stopped. On the screen, the slot waited, dark as a mouth. I pressed triangle. The tray withdrew and opened fully without me touching eject. "Don't," Damon said. The prompt changed. Return. The character lifted empty palms. Same skin tone as mine, same knuckle shapes. On the right index, a pale crescent scar. The box cutter slipped from my second week. The floor tilted. I lifted the disc. It clung for a heartbeat. No scratches. Back on the cloth, it reflected the bench light like shallow water. "Kill power," Damon said. "We'll tell him it's bricked." I flipped the strip. The PS2 kept breathing 3 more cycles, then slowed. The TV didn't blank. It faded to gray and printed a tally. Attempts, 7. Distance, 27 meters. Return, no. A menu hovered. Continue, /trade/exit. The controller buzzed once. "What are we trading?" Damon asked. The menu selected trade by itself. The tray opened again. On the TV, the vending slot filled the frame. In its black, a reflection blinked. A register counter, a ceiling grid, a person at that counter in our colors. Sometimes the fastest way out is through. I slid the disc in, the tray closed. On screen, the character reached into the vending slot and pulled out something that didn't fit. A tiny black rectangle with slats. A PlayStation 2, shrunk to toy size. Where it touched the tile, the texture puckered. The vending machine hummed down a half step. I pressed circle. The character looked up the hallway. The wall behind the machine bulged as if someone pressed from the other side. The poster peeled more. A seam in the block unzipped into a crack. From it came whispering, not words, just the close sound of someone speaking into cupped hands. The bench answered with a hollow click. "Exit," I said, and hit start again. The menu reappeared. I selected exit. The screen went black. The console exhaled a long last breath and went still. The smell stayed. The disc ejected. 2 new notches had appeared. 5 became 7. I bagged the PS2 without looking into the vents and carried it to the counter. The man was gone. The kid and his mom pretended to read Funko boxes while watching us. The printer spat a slip with our store number and the words "Return accepted." No price, no SKU. We checked the sidewalk. Empty. At the far end of the plaza, a soda machine stood under a dead lamp. For a second, I saw our counter reflected in its glass. I blinked, and it was just glass. We quarantined the PS2 in a lidded tote under the bench. All week, walking by, I heard it breathing. Jawbone frequency, a metronome I couldn't unhear. On Thursday, Damon set a cola on the bench. "Don't put quarters in anything," he said. I kept thinking about the menu, continue/trade/exit, and the notch ring. I didn't load the disc again. The tote stayed latched. The smell thinned to a thought. We shipped the console with defectives. Cracked ports, fried boards. 2 weeks later, the tote was back with a distribution label. "Boots fine." Damon laughed without humor and slid me gloves. I lifted the lid. The smell touched my face, polite now. The disc was in a plain sleeve. The notch ring had 9 marks. I slid the sleeve into the drawer that sticks and left the drawer an inch open so it wouldn't scream. That night, locking up, the ceiling buzz tapped like something counting. At the front, someone had taped a quarter to the soda machine. It hung by clear tape like bait. I peeled it off and pocketed it. We closed in the blue of the sign glow. The bell jingled. In the quiet after, the back room exhaled once, and the wall TV, not connected to anything, flashed a gray card for an instant. Continue/trade/exit. I didn't choose. I turned the key and went home with the quarter in my pocket, slept light, and dreamed of trays sliding out, patient, counting notches. I was closing the mall GameStop on a Thursday, the kind of night when the HVAC sighs louder than customers. Nisha had left at 5 with a migraine. The gate was half down and I was doing backroom hero work, zip-tying trade bins, wiping demo controllers, counting drawer 2 to the last nickel. Our stock room is a long aisle of metal shelving and a dented kiosk PC we use as a tester. When I hit the light, it flickered like it had to think about being on. On the workbench lay a headset I didn't recognize. Thick early 2000s cups, cracked headband, fabric pads the color of old gum. A paper tag was tied to its frayed cord. Returned, noise, in red marker. Smaller, Kid says voices talk even when off. Then hold for manager. The plug was the split mic plus audio kind that only fits the tower. The computer was off. I touched the right ear cup. It felt cold, then not. My palm came away with the smell of blister plastic. "Okay," I said to nobody. Even without power, the left cup gave a tiny click against my wrist, like a nail tapped from inside. I slid the mic boom down. The store's air shifted the way it does when a door opens, though the gate latch was engaged. I should have tossed it into defectives. Instead, I jacked the plugs into the tower and hit power. The fan coughed dust, spun up, and Windows yawned awake. While the loading circle churned, the headset breathed a room into my ears. Our fluorescent hiss, the faraway gulp of the soda machine by the food court. "Tech," a boy's voice said, trying on a deeper register. "Squad chat test?" I pulled the cups off. The sound stopped like a door shutting. The desktop hadn't loaded yet. I put them back on. The voice waited, softer, as if it had moved one aisle over. "Squad lead, test," it said. Then, my own cadence half a beat behind. "Okay," as if my earlier word had bounced off concrete and come back thinner. I muted the line in the mixer the second the drivers appeared. It didn't matter. The bars stayed at 0. The headset kept talking. "Name?" I asked before my brain could stop my mouth. A small laugh. Breath on plastic. "I'm second player," the boy said. "I can't spawn unless you press." "Press what?" The boom mic tilted, barely, but on purpose, toward the old intercom under the front counter. At the same moment, the entrance chime tinkled twice, though the chain was looped and the grate teeth interlocked. "I didn't hit that," I said. My sentence came back, delayed and thinner, like a recording of itself. The child's voice threaded over it. "It always repeats here." Then a chorus of canned register lines bled in, not through windows, but inside the foam. "Thank you for shopping. Pre-order today and save. Power to the..." And the brand line clipped like someone lost the signal. I leaned the right cup on the cinder block wall. The plastic warmed a degree. A new sound rose inside the cushion. Cheap walkie crackle. A thumb wobbling push to talk. A woman's voice, managerial and tired, slid past like a skip. "We do not process trades after 9. The tag flipped as if a draft turned it. The red letters showed through backward. On the paper's underside, much erased pencil left one legible mark when I tilted it. PA. "If I plug you in," I said, "does it stop?" "For me," he whispered. I heard the tiny clack of shoulder buttons. "And you, if you press start." I unplugged the intercom mic. Every ceiling speaker made a greedy pop. My hands shook feeding the headset's mic jack into the page port. For a second, nothing happened. Then the roof talkers gave our store back. Close air, vent breath, refrigerator hum half a room away. I set the cups on the bench and kept them off my head. "Second player," the boy said from above, even like a clearance announcement. "I'm back here." "In the back," a second voice added. Not a child, but a hissing version of me. Highs shaved off, a half-beat late. "And a vial." I stepped deeper. The second shelf holds the launch posters we can't trash without permission. Their tubes made a cardboard forest. Something plastic tapped wood behind them in a careful pattern. 2, pause 2, pause 2. The rhythm of a controller set down and picked up again. "Where are your parents?" I asked, and Echo Me asked it too, making the question sound wrong. "Not here," the boy said. "Not in this store. This is where you plug in the other one." he said. "What other one?" A chair roller creaked at floor level. Behind the poster tubes, a second headset waited under a coil of Ethernet and a brick of sleeves. Same model, same aged plastic, a chip missing from the left cup. No tag. "It's co-op," the boy said. "You can't solo a launch." I plugged it into the tower and left both sets on the bench. The ceiling speakers chimed a bright 8-bit menu from a system older than either headset. For a moment, I felt gut-tumble relief. The boot up you want after a scare. "Ready," the boy whispered, and every light seemed to lean in. "Ready," I said to the empty room, and hated that my mouth did it without asking me. 3 tones descended. Start, continue, options. Not as words, but as a selection I somehow understood. No TV was on. The tones settled on continue. The bench fan dropped to a hush. The driver lights held steady. "I'm going now," the child said, cheerful and relieved enough to knock the air out of me. "Thanks for the invite." Warmth left the cups like a window opening inside them. The shoulder button taps ceased. The repeating me voice cut off mid-syllable. From above, the old manager's phrase, "We do not process trades after 9, played once more and scraped to stop, like a disc settling though nothing was spinning. I unplugged both headsets, nested them in the defective's tote and wrote a new tag, "Do not sell." Hold for district. For a minute, nothing pretended to be anything else. The light hummed. The speakers held their breath. Out front, the grate kept its indifferent metal face. On my way out, I plugged the intercom mic back in and said, "We're closed. Thanks for coming in." Because I wanted the last voice the store heard to be mine on purpose. I checked locks and listened to the mall's night. Buffers, a cartwheel squeal, someone coughing out of sight. When I killed the store lights, I caught the shape of 2 headsets reflected in the demo TV like heads bent toward each other, then nothing. I stood there long enough to feel foolish, then left, and the only sound that followed me down the hall was the echo of my own shoes. I was the new hire on a slow Wednesday, still learning which drawer sticks. Our GameStop sat between a payday loan and a nail salon. By 8, the parking lot was washed in 2 blue LEDs. Lena ran deposits to the night drop and left me to straighten, print tomorrow's holds, and pretend the buzzing lights were normal. I was printing "Hold Last Name" stickers when the door chimed and an older woman stepped in with a rigid purse like a textbook. Red scarf, storm gray eyes. She stopped at the new releases table and looked through me rather than at me. "My reserved copy," she said, behind the counter. Keating M. Keating. K was skinny. 2 sports, 1 Lego, nothing for Keating. Which game? She gave the title of a sequel that never released. The studio folded. The forums turned into headstones. "That one was canceled," I said. She slid a receipt across the glass. Yellowed thermal paper, the old blocky logo. Pre-order confirmed. Date, June 11th. No year. On the associate line, my name. I'd been here 9 days. "It was paid in full," Ms. Keating said. "I called to confirm today." "Who'd you speak to?" "The young man whose name is on the receipt." I fed the paper under the scanner. The laser beeped like it read a real barcode. A window I'd never seen popped up. "Hold found. Keating, M. Backroom, pick 1. Location, BKR-BAY-C. I had cleaned Bay C an hour ago. It held old console boxes and a sagging paper towel roll. I took the receipt, crossed to Bay C, and found a single shrink-wrapped game case cutting a groove in the corrugate. The cover looked right if you glanced and wrong if you stared. Font spacing a hair off, ESRB logo the old badge. My handheld read on hand 0. When I scanned the case it updated. On hand 1. Received 0. I carried the case to the counter. Lena came back as I set it down. Find something good? A sequel that doesn't exist, I said, explaining while we both pretended this was fine. She studied the receipt. Who wrote your name on a fossil? Then, look. The date smudge lifted like lemon juice ink near a candle. It now read June 11th, -- and the last 2 digits uncurled into 1 and 1. 2011. Ring it, Miss Keating said, not moving. I don't do well with waiting. I scanned. The POS hesitated and asked, Respect, original price? Beneath it, honor reservation, grade, and pale, commit associates. I hovered cancel. The system selected honor reservation by itself. The customer screen flashed a blank oval where my face should be. I'll need a signature, I said. Her hand wrote in old-fashioned loops. Bag? No, she said. It never leaves me again. The drawer popped. The receipt printed, Thank you, Quinn, associate number dash and then a hyphen, no number. Below, pickup date, June 11th, 2011. Actual date, June 11th, the printer stalled, spat blank, then continued. Today. In the case's glass, the key art didn't match the paper jacket. The character's eyes caught a light we don't have. Miss Cotting tucked the game into her purse. At the door she paused. The chime didn't ring. Don't miss your shift tomorrow, she said, almost kind, and vanished into the blue lot. I tried to void the transaction so we'd have a paper trail. The system denied with a sound like static taught to say no. The old receipt warmed, my name darkened as if re-inked by air. At close, we killed the demo loop. The left TV flashed a white screen with plain text, Continue from last save, yes/no. The cursor ticked on yes and went out. We opened at 10 to a voicemail on line 2. A woman's voice. Hi, this is Mary Keating. I'm confirming my reservation for the new one. Please don't cancel me. I spoke to the associate last night, Quinn, and he said he'd hold it. Timestamp, 8:07 a.m. Impossible. The phones were off. Deliveries hit at noon. Sleeves, used controllers, mailers, and at the bottom, a single shrink-wrapped case denting the cardboard. Same title, same not-quite cover. A pick ticket dated June 11th, 2011. Driver signature blank. Lena looked at me. I scanned. On hand, 1. Received, 0. We're not putting that on the floor, she said. Bay C. I slid it behind cartons and stepped away like it was sleeping. The phone rang. I hit line 1. GameStop, I said. Is this Quinn? Ms. Kiting's voice, distant. I'm outside. The door's locked. We were open. Through the glass. No one at the handle. We're open, I said. Silence, like a hand over the receiver. Then, don't miss your shift tomorrow. Click. No call registered. The door chime rang anyway. After close, I pulled the Bay C case and checked under UV. The spine date hardened. June 11th, 2011. Along the bottom edge, faint where no name belongs. Associate, Quinn. I taped a note. Do not move. Deem pickup. In the morning, the note was gone and the shelf was bare. The handheld said, on hand, 0. Received, 0. A pickup slip, printed by itself, "Thank you, Quinn." "Stop saying your name in the back," Lena said. I did, because superstition sometimes works. June 11th rolled around. Miss Keating didn't appear, but at 8:07 a.m. a message with no caller ID arrived anyway. "I'm confirming my reservation. Please don't cancel me. I spoke to the associate last night. Heat raised the ink on the old receipt. The associate line added a number after the hyphen for the first time. Not my employee number, 2011. That afternoon, the district manager called about oddities and historical holds. While he talked, the printer woke on its own and spit, "Hold, Keating, M, Bay C." The system stamped today. The title was the same sequel that never released. I went to Bay C because paper insists reality has corners. Behind the cartons, the case, shrink tight as day one. I didn't scan it. I set it under the counter glass and waited. Another strip fed without a sale. Continue from last save. The YES cursor ticked and held. A second slip followed. Pickup date, June 11th, 2011. Actual date, today. Associate, Quinn. Outside, a woman in a red scarf crossed the lot without casting a shadow. In the glass, my reflection went featureless and came back. I put the case away and shut the door hard enough to make the bell answer. The handheld refreshed to zeros. The store breathed like a store again. We close at 9. At 9:02, the phone plays one last message whether we answer or not. A confirmation from a year with a 2 in the middle and a 1 at the end, asking me not to cancel what was promised. I lock the gate, count to 2, and keep my name out of the back room. Some nights, the TV catches me and forgets what to do with my face. Some mornings, Bay C is empty like it should be. And every June 11th at 8:07 a.m., a receipt prints without a drawer opening, heat waking ink that already lived there. I was the mid-shift closer on a rainy Saturday. Our manager, Terrell, ducked out for his kid's recital. Priya took the deposit at 8 and left me, Jules, alone with a screaming vacuum and a checklist that always claims we own one more controller than exists. Closing turns the store into a machine. Straighten cases, log defectives, tick boxes, lock the cage, snap photos for the nightly text. At 8:40, with the grate half down and the stragglers gone, I was sorting used controllers into a tote. Xbox, Switch, off-brand USB pads. The storage closet's pegboard has a dead zone where hooks don't fit because the wall bow's there. From the closet came 2 bright notes, cheerful as a coin pickup. Player 2 has joined. I froze. Our demo kiosk was off. I'd killed the TV and the HDMI switcher at 8:15. A muffled echo of the same 2 notes followed, closer, like it played inside a pillow. "Hello?" I said to a closet full of bubble wrap. On the floor under the pegboard lay a controller that hadn't been there 5 minutes earlier. Glossy black, old PlayStation style. The cord looping into a thumb-sized hole near the baseboard and vanishing inside the wall. No one can hide in that closet. Shelves go to the ceiling. The vent is paperback-sized. I picked up the pad. Warm plastic. Sticky face buttons from time. When I tilted it, it vibrated twice with the same 2-note chime. No battery, no adapter, nothing connected except that cord disappearing into gypsum. "Okay," I said, because retail makes you apologize to objects. "That's not how electricity works." I pulled. The line slid a few inches, then tugged back with no force, like slack being taken up somewhere else. Out front, the demo TV flashed on and died. In the closet, the controller thrummed longer. The store lights seemed to take one breath and steady. "Priya," I called. though she was halfway to the night drop. No answer. The ceiling speaker clicked like a mic button. The two-note chime threaded through the PA at full volume, as if a menu screen had taken control. A whisper rode the tail end, kid soft, practiced like it had repeated this 1,000 times. Press start. My scalp prickled. I didn't press it. I don't press unknown buttons on hardware that lives in a wall. The receipt printer at the counter chirped and spat a blank slip. Heat raised faint letters. Connect controller to. The dead demo TV displayed a white field with a barely visible symbol and the standard calibration prompt. Adjust until you can just barely see the icon. The slider moved itself. Too bright, too dim, then dead center. Joules to Tyrrell, I said out of habit. The ceiling speaker clicked again. The closet air cooled. Press start, the voice said, patient and urgent at once. Please. Why? So I don't time out. I pictured a 12-year-old on a couch, a second controller on a cushion, someone yelling from the kitchen, "Hurry up, it's going to kick us." The ordinary image steadied me. "Where are you?" I asked. "Behind," the voice said, matter of fact, like a kid who forgot you don't know the house. "I'm player 2. I can't spawn unless you press." Rules fought fear and lost by a point. We don't cut walls. We don't call mall security unless something bleeds. We also don't leave hazards humming after hours. So I killed everything I could control. I flipped the switcher, unplugged the kiosk's power bar, unplugged the PA amp and let the ceiling go dead. Back in the closet, the controller still hummed. It buzzed my palm once, twice, joined chime without speakers. The cord tugged a fraction like it knew I was stalling. "Not tonight," I said to pegboard and air. "Store policy." Silence. Then the printer chirped again. The slip read in dot matrix letters that weren't ours. Paused. In the TV's black, I watched myself hover like an NPC with no quest. Behind my shoulder, the closet door eased open as if the building shifted. I took the controller with me. If the cord wanted the wall badly, it could drag me. It didn't fight, just fed me line the way a kite gives you string when the person on the other side likes the wind. I got 2 feet before the jacket snagged on something I couldn't see. "Press start," the voice said, closer, like I'd put my ear to the drywall. "Tell me your name." The answer riffled like a profile list. Silly handles you make when you're 11. Then it landed on a simple syllable. Mike. "Okay, Mike." I'm not pressing start until I know what it does. The brightness slider on the dead TV moved to left, right, left, and stopped. Heat printed 2 words on the counter slip as if they'd been hiding. Load game. "No continues tonight," I said. The controller went still. The cord eased. Something in the wall tapped twice, plastic on wood. I grabbed an inspection mirror and box cutters and slid the mirror behind the lowest row of pegboard. Drywall dust, a stud, a dark rectangle where an outlet plate might have been. The cord threaded into a cavity running the length of the store. One more surprise, a second cord, older and thinner, taped to the first with brittle yellowing strip. I tugged. It tugged back, not hard, just real. "This is safe," I lied, and nicked the newer cord, leaving slack to splice later. The second the insulation parted, the controller vibrated once like something alive and fell slack. The unplugged PA clicked a polite click. The store relaxed, the way a plane does when wheels touch. I taped the cut ends separately, labeled them electrical, do not use, and dropped the pad into the defective's tote. As I stood, the demo TV flashed a white frame, the faint symbol almost invisible, and died. I finished closing with the efficiency fear buys. Photos, checklist, gate. On my way out, my phone buzzed with a voicemail time-stamped 8:41 p.m. when I'd been in the closet. A kid's voice, grainy like a decade-old headset. Okay, I'll wait in lobby, unknown number. I deleted it and told myself that counted as bravery, because sometimes bravery is just getting to your car. Sunday, Tyrell dangled the defective's tote with 2 fingers. What's with the extra controller? Cord was frayed into the wall, I said. Safety. He nodded. We'll have maintenance patch it. They won't. But the store felt right again. For the first time all month, the count matched the physical pads. At lunch, the printer fed a slip that said 2 words I treated as a misprint. See you. That night, closing alone, I heard the 2-note chime from the closet. I didn't look. I told the air, we're not doing co-op tonight, killed the lights, and watched my reflection in the demo TV stay a reflection all the way to black. I locked the grate, counted to 2, and let the store keep its save file behind the pegboard, waiting for somebody braver or dumber to press start. They called him the Collector, but the nickname was on our closing checklist before I took nights. I'm Mateo, Mal GameStop by the food court. I keep the drawer balanced, posters straight, shrink tight. Inventory made a religion out of me. He showed on a Wednesday while Hector was at a district meeting and Ailey ran Register 1. Not a creep, not a crank. Just a guy with a coat full of quiet and a way of standing at angles you don't look at twice. He asked to see the limited edition statue in the glass. 5 pounds of resin with a sword too thin for physics. Ailey unlocked the case and set it on the counter. Just a look, he said, smiling like he was doing us a favor. He never offered a card. He didn't walk out with anything either. He just lingered, nodded thanks, and drifted toward the bathroom down the hall. When we turned back, the statue was gone. The register had no sale, no void. Cameras showed Ailey lifting a statue, smiling at thin air, and sliding a bag across the counter to nothing. Corporate called it associate error. Shrink, the word that hates you back. The drawer balanced. The report made a snow angel. Perfect outline, nothing inside. It happened again with the switch bundle. He stood near the end cap like heat gravitates to glass. Can I feel the weight? He asked. We don't open sealed boxes, except he had a sealed unit in his hands before we could answer, a serial label winking. I blinked, and it wasn't on the shelf anymore, and neither the POS nor the camera could tell me where it went. He didn't run, he didn't hide, he just completed a set we couldn't see. We started keeping one of everything under the counter with the lid on the case, just to deny the ritual. He didn't argue. He talked about art books and steel books and tiny details. Only superfans notice. Misprinted spines, variant foil. He knew our exclusives the way you know your kitchen in the dark. I love the craft, he said. I don't keep anything for long. Where does it go? I asked after the third not sale. Where it was promised, he said. I'm just the hand. Hector banned him with the careful, we reserve the right. The collector nodded like the right hand had been reserved before the mall got built. He left with empty palms. After the ban, the store got loud in the wrong way. The demo loop glitched to white cards with too small text, variant A/dev build. The customer display flashed a tax line with no subtotal and cleared. At close, I'd find a bag with a receipt that read, "Thank you, Mateo." like the idea of a sale had moved through me into paper. Friday brought collector's editions with a sticker, "Do not display until 10 a.m. Saturday." We stacked cartons in the cage and snapped the lock. Ollie and I hovered near the door like people do when thunder gets serious. He walked in at 8:55 p.m., coat lighter, pockets the same. He didn't break eye contact with the glass case where 2 statues still lived because we were stubborn. "We're not doing look and hold," I said, "not on those." "I know," he said. "I'm here to complete a set." He placed both hands flat on the counter. He said a name I hadn't heard since my first month. A customer who paid in full and never picked up. We'd returned it. Inventory said so. The case disagreed. There it was, second shelf, dust where it should be. I hadn't seen it a moment ago. "Who are you holding it for?" I asked. "Someone who bought it twice," he said. I scanned. The POS offered Honor Original/Reauthorize, and, in gray, a third I'd never seen, Fulfill Promise. I hit cancel. It selected FULLILLPROMISE anyway. The reader chirped approved with no card. The customer display blinked offline and cleared. My hands, fluent in ritual, bagged the statue. "Bathroom," he said, almost apologetic, and walked toward the corridor. He didn't come back. The tape showed me scanning air, folding a bag over nothing, sliding it toward a blank rectangle. The receipt printed a minute after idle. "Thank you, Mateo," then lower, in heat-raised light. "Delivered." The cage was still locked. The cartons still had straps. The numbers matched and meant nothing. I started talking to the glass. I told the case the policies. Who qualifies for holds? How long we wait before we put it back out and pretend that doesn't feel like a funeral. The case learned my voice. It hummed in the edge glare when I wasn't looking. During a storm, the mall went half dark. The collector asked for a steelbook we'd never stocked. "It's on your manifest," he said, under a name that won't scan till tomorrow. He was right. A plain box under the counter contained exactly that steelbook, wrapped in plastic that felt too thin. "Who's it for?" I asked. "For you," he said, "by way of someone you won't meet." I rang it. The drawer stayed shut. The receipt didn't. Paid already. He took nothing with him but the feeling you get when a checkpoint lights behind you. The ban remained. It doesn't matter. He doesn't need doors. He uses our habits, our hands, our belief that scanned means real and real means heavy. We inventory the air and it inventories us back. I keep a notebook, my own. I write every promise I hear. I'll be back Friday. Hold it till payday. My cousin's grabbing cash. When the bag at close holds a receipt with my name and nothing else, I clip it to the matching line. Maybe it's superstition. Maybe it shares the weight. Near 10 one night, a kid called to say he'd be late for a pre-order pickup, and could we please hold it one more day? I heard wind and a voice behind him saying, "Drive safe." "Yes," I said before checking policy. The line cut. A minute later, the printer fed a slip that said FULLILLPROMISE, and then blanked. The next morning, the kid came in with a tired dad and change counted to the dollar. The box felt heavier than it should have, as if other hands hadn't let go yet. Sometimes the glass reflects only what's in front of it. Sometimes it shows the counter with a bag where no bag lies, and my name printed twice, once where it belongs and once where it doesn't. On those nights I say the policy like a prayer. No holds after 7. Proof required. No bathroom pickups. The store hums in my key. The numbers add up perfectly to nothing. Close comes. I count the drawer, flip the sign, lock the gate, and wait for the sound the camera records 3 minutes after I leave. A bag sliding across glass to a pair of empty hands. A whisper that could be air saying, "Thank you, Mateo," and the click of a promise filing itself under a name I won't see until tomorrow. I'm Renee, assistant at the mall GameStop that smells like thermal paper and energy drinks. People trade us the same sports title every week, a year-old football game identical to the wall of used copies. This one felt wrong the second it hit the counter. The case was warm. The disc looked fine until you noticed tiny cuts along the inner ring, 5 notches. The customer, a dad with a hospital band tan line, set it down. "Keep it," he said. "No credit. Don't attach it to my account." "If it doesn't boot, we recycle," I said. "It plays," he said. "That's the problem." "It plays by itself." We tag those defective tests and bench them after close. At 8, when the food court gets church quiet, I slid the disc into the backroom PS4. No logos. Straight to a Wandy Stadium. Exhibition mode, default teams. I hadn't touched a controller, but the kickoff happened. The camera drifted like a bee. The scoreboard clock read 3:17. "Ghost demo," said Jorge, our shift lead. He didn't sound sure. Third quarter, tied. The other team scored with 1 second left. Final, 23-24. The screen asked rematch/return. A controller vibrated in a drawer. I hadn't turned it on. I hit eject, ignored. A highlight reel replaced the game. Shots of our counter glass and ceiling grid as if the store were a stadium. For one frame, my silhouette held a controller I didn't. Then the disc popped into my hand. The edge had 2 new notches. 5 became 7. At 3:21 a.m., my phone showed a voicemail from the store. Crowd noise, then the play-by-play voice, nasal and careful, said my name like a question. "Ruhne?" Next morning, a receipt waited in the tray. Game summary. Lost by 1 to 3:17 a.m., no sale. Cashier line R. I took the disc to the bench again. The notches were 9. The system moved itself to the icon, launched, and resumed like time was a level you could re-enter. Same wind, same nameless teams. Final, down 1. Rematch/return. A third option flickered and vanished. Continue season. By the weekend, returns piled up. "My console turned on at night," said a teacher-tired man. "Just once," said a college kid. "Every night," said a woman who hated admitting fear. All of them lost by 1 around 3 a.m. Several said 3:17 like a password. We stopped taking IDs on that title. A tote labeled Sports Returns became a joke we didn't laugh at. Every few days, a receipt would print itself with a temp number and no transaction. Friday close, I put the disc in and let it run. "Back again," the announcer said. I asked, "What happens if I win?" "You don't," he said. "That's the point." "It's practice." For what?" "For losing by 1. I waited for the last drive and tried every high school cheese. Slants, quarterback draw, halfback pass. I got to the 4 with no timeouts, threw a fade. It brushed fingertips and died tame, 23-24. "Rematch?" the screen asked, sweet as a trap. I hit return. The prompt reappeared. Return again. The controller vibrated like polite laughter. The printer fed a slip. Attempt 13. "Enough," I said, and pressed eject. The third option showed itself clearly. Continue season. The cursor jumped there and held. In the reflection, I saw the wall clock disagree with the game clock. My phone buzzed with another store voicemail. I didn't press play. "What do you want?" I asked. "Someone to keep count," the announcer said. "Write the tally so the next person doesn't start at 0. 12 notches. I killed power at the strip. The TV died. When I pried the disc out, the notches were still 12. I sharpied the hub where only a bench tech would see. Lost by 1, 12 tallies, do not reshelf. Instead of the defective bin, I walked it to the food court e-waste barrel and dropped it in. The thump sounded like refusing a ritual. At 3:17 a.m., my phone lit again. I let it ring. In the morning, a receipt waited. Game summary. Lost by 1. Attempt 13. The tote had 1 fewer copy. The barrel had 1 more. The title kept arriving. We didn't scan names. We handed a Sharpie to people who needed to write their tally on the inner ring. Most did. The numbers through the case plastic read 13, 14, 15. One afternoon, a kid about 12 brought one in. His mom waited by the door. "It makes our PS4 wake up," he said. "We always lose by 1. I tried pausing. It waits, then it plays anyway." "Did you write your count?" I asked. He nodded. 3 careful marks. "I thought I could win the 4th, he said. "You did it right," I said. I took his name off the ticket before it could stick. At opening the next day, a receipt had printed, "Continue season, YES/NO. The cursor blinked over YES. We have no way to answer paper. The next time I tested a copy, the announcer didn't greet me. He sighed like wind in bleachers. "We could simulate," he said, "but that's not the same." "Same as what?" "Being almost enough," he said. "That's what's left in the plastic." The game ran to the last minute and did its trick. Down 1. Rematch/return/continue season. I reached for return and stopped. Instead, I put the controller down and folded my hands on the counter. I watched the clock run out. I didn't choose. The screen went gray. A plain card appeared. Practice complete. The printer spit a slip. Attempt 16. Thank you. The disc ejected. The notches still read 12. I carried the game to the barrel and saw the one I'd dropped earlier poking up amid dead cords. The inner ring now had 13 marks, though I hadn't touched it. Maybe the barrel counts. We still get that title. We still hand out Sharpies and don't link accounts. Sometimes a receipt prints game summary at 3:17 with no cashier. Sometimes the tote gains a copy we didn't take in. I don't answer the store's voicemails anymore, but I listen to the first second of each, the near silence of a stadium holding its breath. If a kid asks whether they can win, I tell them the truth. Not this one. You play so you know what the last minute feels like. It sounds cruel until you see how they nod, like someone finally said what the rules are. On certain nights, the demo TV powered off shows a faint scoreboard when the angle's right. It always freezes at 23-24. I lock the gate and resist adding a notch to the air. Some tally belongs to the next person. Some games are practice for people you'll never meet. And at 3:17, whether I'm awake or not, the store breathes like a stadium before a kick. And somewhere, a controller buzzes twice to tell somebody that player 2 has joined, and there's just enough time to almost win again. I closed the freestanding GameStop by the highway, the one with the buzzing letter O. I'm Sloan, long enough on nights to know which drawer sticks and which pegs bite. I straightened, ran totals, and pretended the ceiling didn't hum in the key of tired. In training, they told the rumor. A manager fired years ago for 401s kept coming back to use his employee discount. Inventory always stayed perfect. Cameras always showed a cashier talking to air and sliding a bag. Someone said his name once, Garrity, and HR scrubbed the old schedules like that would teach the store to forget. At 8:43, a man stepped in and paused just past the towers. Mall-neutral coat, polite posture, a reflection that lagged the door chime. He smiled like he was already at the counter in his head. "I'll grab it up front," he said. "Pre-order? Employee discount." He tapped the customer display. A login box I hadn't called appeared. Associate number, blank, 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 blank. It autofilled, Garrity, number 00013. My badge name inverted on the cashier screen and blinked back. "Only associates get that," I said. "With ID, the system remembers," he said, not unkind. He nodded at the pin pad, and it beeped approval without a subtotal. The customer display printed employee discount applied 15%. Under it, "Thank you, Sloan." I didn't. "You did," he said gently. "You were taught." My handheld flashed on hand, 0 for items we kept under glass. The case still looked full. A finger path traced the dust. "What do you want?" "To finish a shift," he said. He set a folded schedule on the counter. Week of June 11th. Close. Garrity. The paper felt warm, like it had lived in a pocket it never had. I never clocked out? The POS bubbled a prompt I'd never seen. Complete transaction for Associate, YES/NO. It selected YES by itself. The drawer didn't open. The printer loved him anyway. Employee discount, ID 00013. Cashier, Sloan. Beneath, heat-bloomed letters. Shift complete. "Returns over there," he said, nodding at the bathroom corridor, and walked off like a manager on circuits. The hallway swallowed him and gave me back my breathing. Later, footage would show me ring air, bag nothing, slide it across glass. No coat in the frame. Inventory unchanged, shrink 0. I held a receipt for a sale without items. The tax line existed anyway. I hit void. The POS printed a thin training slip. A tiny T sat at the bottom of the screen like a guilty breadcrumb. I checked the cage, locked. Straps still bit the cartons. Numbers in my pocket kept insisting. On hand, 0. Received, 0. Shrink, 0. That last 0 glared like a dare. The customer display typed on its own. "Thank you. Have a great night. Clock out." The last line blinked until I pressed the dead side button on the monitor. It kept blinking. The gate rattled once. Outside, the neon O buzzed up and settled. The store smelled like hot paper, the way it does after too many pre-orders. "Garrity," I said, because the handbook says not to speak what you don't want, and I wanted to see. The ceiling speaker clicked, that small intercom mouth noise. A neutral, over-enunciated voice said, "Team, let's take care of our guests," and cut. I counted the drawer anyway. Bills matched the report like a magic trick. Coins, exact to the cent. Under the 20s lay a post-it I hadn't written. Comp 15% for returning members, initialed with a G and a slash like a falling elevator. We don't comp like that. The demo TV lit without signal and showed a pause menu I didn't recognize. Resume/void/clock out. The cursor slid to clock out and held. The register printed again without being asked. Shift complete. Garrity. Thank you, Sloan. You were terminated, I told the humming air. You don't get a discount. Silence. Then the soft scuff a bag makes crossing glass, except there was no bag. My hand went out anyway and felt the weight of nothing. If he were theft, Shrink would scream. If he were a bug, training mode would leave footprints in the log. The log was clean except for one line. Cashier. Sloan. Associate. 00013. I sent the nightly photos to Ty with a normal caption so nobody would drive down to fix a problem that loves being watched. I locked the cage and said, too loud, "We're closed, thanks for coming in." On my way to the gate, the customer display typed, "See you tomorrow, closer." The back printer coughed a page, week of June 11th. Close, Garrity, Sloan. The date at the top read, today. The corners curled like old heat. I left the page under the stapler and locked the grate. The chain felt heavier and then light, as if a practiced hand mirrored mine. Outside, the bank kiosk coughed a receipt with no transaction. It skittered under the buzzing "Oh." Morning DM texted, "Check training toggles." We don't have training toggles, we have people and a number that says Shrink is 0. We have bag sounds on camera and my name on paper that prints itself. We have a week in June that keeps trying to finish. 2 nights later he returned. Same lagging reflection, same polite smile. "Employee discount," he said. "Sure," I said this time, just to see. I didn't press anything. The system thanked me anyway. The printer fed, "Employee discount, ID 00013. Cashier, Sloan, thank you." The drawer stayed put. The bag whispered across glass without weight. "What if I don't ring it?" I asked. "You will," he said. "You were taught." "What happens if I clock you out?" He brightened like a TV taking power. "Then we all go home on time." The demo TV threw up the pause menu again. I used the mouse I never use and clicked clock out. The screen went dark. The ceiling speakers made a tiny pop and slept. The register printed one final strip. Shift complete, Garrity. Under it, in heat-raised letters, my name. Then nothing. The store exhaled. The hand held in my pocket refreshed back to the numbers I'd expect. The dust finger path on the glass blurred as if a sleeve brushed it. For the first time that week, the close felt normal. At the door, the customer display woke and typed a last line. "Thank you." I locked the grate, counted 2, and listened to the night practice being quiet. Sometimes that's all the job is. Saying the script right so the building lets you go. If he asks for his discount and the register remembers him, I'll click clock out and let the temple have its offering. Shrink will stay at 0. The report will sing. And if the display types "See you tomorrow," I'll answer like policy. Happy to help, because whatever Garrity is, he knows stores in his bones, and I don't want to find out what happens when a place that remembers manners decides you've forgotten yours.